Welcome back to Beer Brackets, everybody. This is our first ever top 3 episode. We're going to be counting down the top 3 easy to find lagers. Now, one thing Alessandro and I want to clarify about this, these aren't what we think are the best lagers in the world. So what we want to do with this one is put together a little list of 3 lagers that we really like that are easily accessible where we are. So for me, it's going to be 3 that you could probably easily find in Canada. And for him, it's going to be 3 that you can easily find in the U.S. So in case you're, hanging out on the weekend or you're thinking about wanting to try a new beer, you're feeling like a lager, you want a little bit of a recommendation, and you're wondering, what would Joe recommend? What would Alessandro recommend for a good lager to have tonight?
I'm so excited. It's been so much fun picking the beer, and I can't wait to drink them here tonight with you.
Let's get right into it. Number 3.
All right, so I picked a beer that I've actually presented before on the channel. It's the Anchor Steam.
Oh, the Anchor Steam. I want to try this one so badly. I can't get that here.
It's so good, my friend. Next time you come down, we definitely have to try this together. The brewery started in 1896 in San Francisco. It's a West Coast-based brewery, has a long tradition history. It's a lager that is fermented at a very high temperature with a specific technique called krausen, and it's produced with the basically re-fermenting part of the beer. And the flavor is so unique, easily accessible in most of the United States. So this is my first recommendation.
Can you find that in most states? I know you're down in Florida, and I know it's pretty easily accessible down there.
Yep.
Let's say you're up in New York or you're up in Washington State.
It is. I didn't check every single state, but I went on their website and I tested out a few different states, and it was readily available in most stores in multiple locations. So it's one that it's should be really easy to find, and it's so delicious. I've had it multiple times. And it's, I can't recommend it enough.
I've been keeping you waiting long enough. I think you need to drink some beer. I think you should open that up and show our fine audience what it looks like.
Thank you. Well, if you notice, it has a new packaging. They actually just changed the label and the look. So,
ooh, since the last time we saw it?
Yes. It's a new thing that they did at the beginning of this year, if I'm not mistaken. Look at that nice amber color right there. That nice foamy head. Oh.
Well, there you go. You have your first recommendation from Alessandro, his number 3. While he enjoys that and takes his first couple of sips, I'm going to introduce my number 3. This one is my third for a reason. I really love this one. It's actually one that my wife really loves as well. So it's something that we like together. It's a brewery, a microbrewery based out of Toronto, where I'm living currently, called Amsterdam Brewery. It is the 3-Speed Lager. The reason why I wanted to keep this as my number 3, it is a local. It's very easy to find if you live in the province of Ontario. I know you can't find this, let's say, in Quebec. I've heard that they do ship cases to the western provinces west of Ontario. I wasn't able to find any information online, but I've heard rumors. You could find it. For anybody who does live in Ontario, this one is super easy to find. It's really common. They're an amazing craft brewery. They actually have a big sort of gastro pub here in the city. I think they have a couple of locations, but they had one main one that they started with that they brew the beer out of, and you can go there by the waterfront, sit down and enjoy their beers. And to be honest with you, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing extremely different when it comes to lagers, but it's one of those things where they do what they do super well. And like I mentioned, this is one that my wife really likes. She's not a beer connoisseur, but she likes her beer. And this is one that she absolutely loves. So they must be doing something different because it really stands out for her. And one thing that I like about this, if you've been watching a lot of our videos on the channel, you know that Alessandro and I are big fans of the toasted flavor in lagers and pilsners, right?
We sure are.
We sure are, man. We like the toasted. And what I love about this, it's clean, it's crisp, it's light. It's highly carbonated, and it's got the most delicious toasted aroma to it. And what you get on the finish is just that sort of toasted malt flavor. It's so nice, but it's crisp, it's clean, it's refreshing, it's light. It's 4.2% ABV, so it's really low alcohol, but it's flavorful. So you get that nice combination of light and refreshing and crisp, but flavorful at the same time. And it's delicious. I love this one.
Well, cheers, my friend.
Cheers, man. cheers to our number threes.
Cheers to our number threes.
That brings us to number 2 of our favorite easy to find lagers in the US and in Canada.
Number 2.
So I chose Yingling traditional lager.
The Yingling.
The Yingling!
The Yingling has made so many non-official appearances on our channel. It's incredible. Well, you saw with our little interview with our friend Drew, we talked about Yingling. It came up in the Lauren Lurch interview as well, how much she loves Yingling. We would love to do an official review on this, but I just can't get it up in Canada, so we can't do it. But I love when Yingling makes an appearance.
And that's kind of like exactly why I picked it. It's because like it has come up on the channel. You know that when you were down here, we enjoyed it together. It's a delicious beer. When I first moved here in the U.S., it was the beer that I kind of like started falling in love with because it was easily accessible in most places you go. Also on tap. I have to say that it's only in the eastern part, so it's I think it's available also in Louisiana, but it's only on this side of the Mississippi, so unfortunately it's not everywhere. But I wanted to represent it because it made an impact on me when I moved here from Europe.
I love how the Mississippi is the dividing line. And it's true, when I was down there, I got to try Yingling for the first time, and it is everywhere. Like, you go into a gas station, you can get cases of Yingling. You go into any kind of like small dive bar pool, they'll have Yingling on tap, they'll sell bottles, right? So it's super accessible. Man, it's delicious. It's really, really good. For just a common, accessible, local, cheap beer, I mean, damn, it's really tasty.
It's amazing. It had to be on my recommendations for beers to try. So even if you live, in the western part of the U.S. and you ever come, now it's difficult, but next time you happen to travel here across the Mississippi, make sure to get yourself a pint of Yingling because it's worth trying it.
You know what I find interesting about Yingling is it has that sort of dark amber color, but it's a lager. Like, looking at it, you would think it's a pale ale, or you would think it's like a red ale.
Yes.
That's so interesting. That kind of threw me off. And that's what's so nice about it. It has like those flavors of a pale ale or a red ale, hints of those flavors, but in such like a nice light lager form that makes it crisp and easy to drink.
They're crisp and clean, a nice hoppy finish without being overpowering. It has that nice toasted element, still being refreshing. It's really delicious beer that I would recommend to try every day.
And for good reason. I would recommend a Yingling to anybody. If they had them here, I'd be drinking it all the time. So my number 2 for lagers that I recommend, easy to find lagers that I recommend.
What are you getting, my friend? What are you drinking? I'm excited.
Our good old friend, we know this beer very well, the Harp Lager.
Yes! Yes! I love that.
Ah, man, I know. So we did a whole review on this around St. Patrick's Day very recently. I'll put a link to it down below if you feel like going and checking it out. In our St. Patrick's Day double feature episode along with Guinness Blonde. I love Harp Lager. I've always really loved Harp Lager. For anybody that doesn't know the background on it, I do encourage you to go down there and check out our review. We go deep on the history of Harp Lager. Essentially, in the 1960s, there was a big sort of lager craze in the UK and in Ireland, and Guinness, who had traditionally been brewing porters and stouts up to that point, decided that, hey, we want to get in on the lager market. And they came up with the Harp Lager with that sort of iconic Guinness harp on the front. Oh, by the way, if you don't know what the harp is, check out our Inside the Brackets, episode 8, I believe, on the story behind the Guinness harp. I'll put a link down to that below. But man, just classic, easy drinking, crisp. You can get this anywhere, and that's one of the great things about it, and that's why I wanted to feature it on number 2 on my list. I know that in most provinces I've been to in Canada, you can go into a corner store, you can go into a grocery store, you can find Harp Lager. I know where you are down in the southern US, it's easy to find. I know in a lot of other states I've been to, it's easy to find. It is delicious, it is clean, it is crisp, it is flavorful. You can really taste those nice toasted malts. Woo! There we go.
Look at that.
And they use that Guinness yeast. Am I right?
I think they do, my friend, and that's the Guinness superpower.
That's the superpower of Guinness. This one is a little bit more flavorful. So with the 3-speed, it was kind of clean and crisp, like you got that kind of toasted, but it was really light and highly carbonated. This one's a little less carbonated, a little bit more flavorful. So you get some notes, you get a little bit of sweetness, You get that toasted element in there, but it's also smooth, also easy drinking, also crisp. Delicious.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, my friend. Cheers to you guys. Get yourself a harp. Let us know what you think about it. Get yourself a Yingling. Let us know what you think of Yingling. I'm dying to know. I actually don't know what he has as his number one, so I'm as excited as you guys to find out. Let's roll out our number ones. Yes!
Number 1.
So for my number 1, I am going with a bit of a classic here, but I had to pick this one. It's the
Number 1 for a reason.
Weihenstephaner original.
Oh!
Bavarian style. So I'm not going domestic, but I picked this one because I feel like that when it comes to lager, I always tend to kind of compare things to this one here. It's one of my personal favorite. It's easily accessible, and it's just so delicious.
I've never tried their lager.
It's, oh my God, my friend, that's such a treat.
Really?
It's absolutely delicious. And they do also have a Pilsner, but I think that this one here was a better representation. So I had to pick it up. Look at that. Ooh,
oh.
Nice foamy head, clear.
Oh, that looks beautiful. Can you show me the label?
Oh, of course.
Okay, yeah. See, I don't think I can get that one here, or I haven't seen it. At least I'll look into it.
It's one of those beers that, in which it's more about what's not there and how clean and crisp it is.
Yes.
It has the perfect amount of toastiness that I always tend to compare, other lagers with. It has that presence of hops, but it's just a hint to remind you that they're there. And you take a sip, and it's just incredibly refreshing. The carbonation is so perfect. The bubbles are fine and gentle. They just roll on your tongue, and they just leave you with wanting more. So it's one of those beers that really you can enjoy anytime, and it's never gonna tire you up. So if you haven't had it and you have a chance, you might have to go maybe to a beer store, but in any beer stores I've been to, they have it. I've always researched it online. It's easily accessible. In the U.S.
I'm sure I could probably find it here then. I'll just have to find the right place. So I'm going to search it out for sure.
And I know that Canada is probably different, but here in the U.S. it's easy to find.
My number 1 is probably one of my favorite lagers. And this has been a go-to of mine for a very, very, very long time. It is so easily accessible. It is the famous brown stubby Red Stripe.
Yes!
I'm so happy that we're getting to feature Red Stripe on the channel finally. I would love to do a review of this one day. But an ice-cold Red Stripe on a hot summer day, it's just absolutely beautiful.
Red Stripe, the beer in the short, stubby, ugly bottle. If ugly people stand next to a Red Stripe, they look beautiful. You, sir.
You know it for being Jamaican, and it is. It actually started off, it was brewed in the U.S. before anything else, and then it was sold off to some businessmen from the U.K. who moved production of it down to Jamaica, over in the Caribbean, right? And then it'd been brewed there for decades and decades and decades. And then there was a point in time where production was moved partially out of Jamaica as well for the US markets, I believe for Europe and some other markets as well. And Jamaica kept brewing for Canada and some other local markets too. But now, from what I can find online, they're putting a real concerted effort into making sure that it's all brewed in-house in Jamaica. The brewery is D&G. It's the two names of those fellows from the UK who bought it off the American company back in the 1920s and moved it over to Jamaica. I'm not going to try and pronounce their names. I think it was Denois and Guineas, from what I believe. I probably completely butchered that. But oh my God, is it a good beer. For this one, I'm going with my beer brackets glass.
Yay!
It deserves it for the number 1. So easily accessible. I mean, in Canada, at the very least, any grocery store that has a couple of imported beers, at corner stores, most places, you can find Red Stripe. It's extremely common, extremely easy to find. Not a go-to for very many people. If people want an easy drinking lager that's not too expensive, a lot of people will go with, especially in Canada, I mean, Coors Light is really popular, even though it's an American one, it's as easy to find here. People will go with, the Heinekens, or in Canada, they might go with like the Labatt Blues or the Molson Dries or the Molson Exports, the Molson Canadians, or the Mooseheads. They might go with all those. And Red Stripe kind of gets forgotten sometimes, even though you can find it everywhere. But man, if you're looking for something a little different, if you want to switch things up and you want a nice, clean, easy drinking beer to have that's nicely chilled on a summer day, get yourself a Red Stripe. They advertise their flavors as having a butterscotch element to it, which I definitely do get. You get like a sweetness on it. I always thought it was more of like a honey, but butterscotch works too. So good. You get like those toasted malts, a little bit of sweetness. It's got some character. It's got a little bit of bite. It's got some aftertaste. You can taste the bitterness. You can taste the hops a little bit. I lump it in with like a Corona in that sense. You know how with Corona you get like that hoppy, bitter, sort of stingy aftertaste, but in a nice, clean, refreshing way. Guys, there you go. Our top 3 list of lagers, our favorite easily accessible lagers for Canada and for the US, for my colleague Alessandro over here. If you can find them, give them a try. If you're looking for a recommendation on a lager to have this weekend, give them a try. Hope you like it, guys. Let us know down below what would be your top 3 favorite go-to lagers that are easily accessible where you are. Let us know. Are you from Europe? Are you from South Africa? Are you from Russia? Let us know what's easily accessible around you. What are your top 3 picks? Are there any other top 3s you'd like us to count down in the future? We'll get to them one day.
And most important, regardless of what it is, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Oh, do not forget to open and close your lager beer brackets with one in between. Cheers. Guys.